Thank you for joining today's Community Health Advisory Panel meeting, everyone. Today we'll be discussing youth safety, security, and thriving, reimagining the transition to adulthood. So my name is Daniela Gonzalez Rios. I'll be serving as your moderator this afternoon, and I want to welcome the rest of the Health Justice team at AJE. Today with me, I have Chioma Oru and Amilka Hudson, who will be supporting throughout today's event. So if you need any support today, please feel free to message them directly if you need any assistance. I'd like to also acknowledge and thank the interpreters that are helping with today's panel. So we are very grateful to have Cassie and Cyrus from Good Signs providing American Sign Language interpretation. And we want to thank Javier and Erwing from Latin Matters for providing Spanish interpretation. Thank you, Javier. All right. Chioma, if you could just please support me with sharing your screen with the PowerPoint. Thank you. So today's conversation focuses on how we can build systems that help young people not only simply survive, but also thrive as they transition into adulthood, particularly children and youth with special healthcare needs and disabilities. Before we begin, I'd like to review a few community agreements. So we join this space together to ensure that we're listening to understand, that we honor lived experience as expertise, that we speak from our own experience, and that we're mindful of time so everyone has an opportunity to participate. We want to make sure that we are assuming positive intent while remaining open to learning and keeping our conversation solution focused. And most importantly, that we respect privacy and confidentiality. So if everyone can just drop a thumbs up emoji in the chat to let us know you're in agreement with the community norms, I would really appreciate it. And if there are any additional norms or suggestions that you would like to add for today's meeting, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We truly appreciate everyone's participation in creating a respectful and inclusive space for today. Thank you, everyone. And then I have Emil supporting with the chat, so please go ahead and just let me know and flag to me if I need to pause. Thank you. Thank you, Chioma. All right. So, first, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge our community partners, council offices, DC government agencies, advocates, and families and youth that are joining us today. So, please, we invite you to introduce yourself in the chat by sharing your name and role. And if you are joining as a youth, family member, caregiver, or community member, we welcome you to share that as well. All right. Before we move into today's discussion, I'd like to share a few important announcements. First, we want to highlight our My Child Find Storytelling campaign. We are currently collecting family testimonies to better understand families' experiences navigating early child identification and special education services. So we encourage you to continue sharing your story and potentially consider sharing your story with us. And we would really appreciate it as we're trying to collect as many stories as we can collect. We are also excited to highlight our upcoming health policy camp events to encourage you to stay connected and join us in these engaging opportunities that we have coming up. On the 18th, which is tomorrow, we will have our parent cafe. And on the 20th, which is on Monday, we'll be having a special play that is directed by Whitney, not Houston Sellers, a 14-year-old youth advisory board member at AJE. So we're extremely excited for that event, and we truly hope that all of you all can join us in that space. Lastly, Chioma will drop the link to our live binder resources, which I also sent to you before we started this meeting, which includes helpful resources and information related to today's discussion. And we encourage you to review them when you get a chance and share them out as much as possible. Okay. We will now transition to our first poll for this afternoon. We appreciate you taking a moment to share your perspectives as your voices and lived experiences are an important part of shaping our work. So the first question we have for you today is when you think about youth thriving in DC, what matters most? And you can select up to three answers. I'll give you all about a minute to drop your answers. And if you just joined us, welcome. We're taking a poll. Feel free to drop your answers. Great. We have about 13 responses. If we can get a couple more, I'll give you all a couple more minutes, a couple more seconds to go ahead and just share your answers. All right. If you just joined us, we're taking a Zoom poll. If you have a chance, please go ahead and drop your answer. All right. So as of now, the ones that stood out and have the most votes are mental and behavioral health supports, stable housing and family stability, access to education, and inclusive schools. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Right. Thank you all for that. Throughout the meeting today, we'll have three more polls. So I just appreciate you all sharing your perspective. Next, we'll transition into our next section. Let me make sure I'm stopped the share. The next section, we will be defining terms for today's conversation, which will ground our conversation by exploring the purpose of the Community Health Advisory Panel and the key themes that shape today's conversation. Today's meeting is a little different from our typical Community Health Advisory Panel meetings because it takes place during our health policy camp. We've brought together this panel to explore the broader issues that shape youth safety, stability, thriving, and to help connect what we're learning throughout the camp to connect it to our real world experiences. So, CHAP, the Community Health Advisory Panel, brings together families, advocates, and healthcare professionals to identify barriers to navigate care, elevate community voices, and develop solutions that improve health equity in DC. So, over the course of our previous chat meetings, we have explored a range of important ideas that impact the health and well being of our community. These conversations have included Medicaid and Alliance access, enrollment, and eligibility, school based health and behavioral health access, early childhood transitions and early intervention navigation, and the link to the live binder that Chioma dropped, you can also find a tab called Advocacy Briefs, where you can see the recommendations that we have suggested for each of these topics. Throughout today's conversation, we'll reference concepts that can be found in our life binder, and we'll be grounding today's conversation around several concepts. First, let's talk about transition to adulthood, which we define as the period between ages 14 and 26. During this time, young people are preparing for education, employment, independent living, healthcare transitions, and community participation. For youth with disabilities, successful transitions often require coordinated planning and strong support systems. We'll also be grounding our conversation in disability justice and youth equity. Disability justice recognizes that disability intersects with other identities and calls for removing barriers so everyone can fully participate. Youth equity ensuring that every young person has access to the opportunities and supports they need, recognizing that different youth may need different resources to achieve similar outcomes. Another important principle is intergenerational leadership, which encourages young people and adults to share decision making, learn from one another, and work as partners. Youth bring valuable lived experience, and when their voices are included, we create stronger programs and better solutions. Finally, you may hear us mention DDS or RSA. The Department of Disability Services, DDS, provides services and supports for people with disabilities. Within DDS, the Rehabilitation Services Administration, RSA, helps individuals with disabilities prepare for, find, and keep employment. Together, these programs can support individuals and families as they plan for greater independence, employment, and community participation. As we move through today's panel, please keep in mind of these concepts that we just named. Together, they provide a framework for understanding how we can better support young people, especially youth with disabilities, as they transition into adulthood and build lives where they have the opportunity to thrive. If we have new people who just joined, welcome. Please drop your name and your org in the chat. We appreciate you being here. All right. It is now my pleasure. Chioma, if you could just please help me pin our wonderful panelists today, please. It is now my pleasure to introduce our outstanding panelists with us today. Our first panelist is Adrian Smith. Adrian is a Washingtonian and disability rights advocate with over 12 years of experience supporting healthcare justice and community advocacy. She is an accounting professional with expertise in program management, regulatory compliance, and government contracting. Her certifications include the AJE Parent Leadership Academy, Mental Health First Aid for Youth and Adults, Occupational Safety, and Health Administration Training, Grants Management, and Green Infrastructure. She became a parent ambassador with AJE after years of attending AJE's Parents Cafe and has a transition age child whom she is encouraging to learn additional advocacy skills through AJE's Youth Advisory Board. Adrian actively engages with the DC Council and community organizations to advocate for disability rights, healthcare access, and equity. So please join me in welcoming Adrian through the chat or drop any emojis. I know we have some fellow parent ambassadors here, so you personally have gotten a chance to interact and engage with Adrian. Thank you, Adrian, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Next, I'd like to introduce Tiffany Yule, sorry. Tiffany is the Special Projects Coordinator with Quality Trust for individuals with disabilities and a native Washingtonian with over 15 years of experience advancing inclusive opportunities and supports for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their caregivers. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Psychology from South Carolina State University and a Master's of Arts in Human Resources Development from Webster University. Currently, she supports Quality Trust leadership and staff in advancing multiple national and local grant-based programs that allow Quality Trust to exceed the needs of people served surrounding transition age youth, parent supports, and Project Action, DC Self Advocacy Coalition. So please also join me in welcoming Tiffany. All right.
Thank you for
Our,
having me.
yes, glad you're here. Our next panelist is Raisa Bachangweke, Chief Operating Officer of Mercyland Healthcare and former Chief Executive Officer of Care for All Home Services. She holds a Bachelor's of Science in Information Systems with a minor in Business Administration from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and brings extensive experience in healthcare operations, technology-driven leadership, workforce development, quality improvement, and strategic partnerships. With specialized training in intellectual and developmental disabilities, healthcare compliance, employment supports, and person-centered practices, Raisa is committed to advancing innovative, inclusive services that strengthen and access, empower families and staff, and promote independence and meaningful outcomes for the individuals and communities Mercyland Healthcare serves. Please join me in welcoming Raisa.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yes, thank you. And then finally, last but not least, we have Richard Yuan, who is the Program and Operations Coordinator at Mercyland Healthcare. bringing experience in communications, program coordination, community outreach, and direct support services. He supports the systems and daily operations that promote consistent, respectful, and person centered care for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. With a degree in international business and economics and a background in nonprofit initiatives, advocacy, and organizational support, Richard is committed to strengthening programs through collaboration, accountability, and compassionate service that empowers individuals and families. Okay, great. So, with that, those are our four amazing panelists joining us today. And for everyone else joining us through Zoom, we really welcome you and thank you all for being here once again. We will now transition to our panel discussion, and we will start with opening introductions. So, I'd like to invite each panelist to just briefly introduce themselves, your name, and then what inspired you to do this work with the communities you serve. We'll begin with Adrian, followed by Tiffany, Raisa, and Richard. Go ahead, to Adrian.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adrienne Smith. I'm in this space because throughout my career, I've had to manage many of the federal grants that touch the lives of the school children. Everything from early childhood all the way to college. And I know the importance of education for anyone, regardless of their disability status. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here. I want to make sure everyone gets an opportunity to do whatever they want to in life as far as a career track. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Tiffany Yule again with the Quality Trust. And what brings me to this community is probably luck. Um, of course, I've gone to school. I've always wanted to be a helper, always want to help, 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 help. And so I've been lucky enough to finish my education in training and development, always have been interested in seeing people get ahead, especially of certain communities that we recognize may not have had all of the access that other groups have had. And so I've always been a person trying to level the playing field. And so again, I've been lucky to be in this role. My early years began as an individual advocate, so supporting individuals throughout the district, mostly being supported by Department of Disability Services. But as Quality Trust began to grow, we did a lot more work with families in their natural home settings. And so going out, especially around youth, meeting families, recognizing that quite a few young people between 20 and let's say 35 were sitting home unserved. Parents did not realize the services and supports that were all around them. And so wanting to, again, to close those gaps and to ensure that people have opportunities to move forward. And so that brings me here today. We're doing a lot more work with youth in a deeper kind of way, more hands-on with empowerment sessions that I've been lucky to lead, and it brings me great joy actually speaking to the youth, understanding their needs, understanding what they have to look forward to on the adult side, and just being able to nurture that journey in a way that kind of moves them forward. And so, again, I've been lucky to be a part of the disability community here in DC. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Raisa Bachakwe. Daniela did pretty much most of the introduction for me. But just like everyone else here, I think my reason for being in this field is because I have a desire to help. My background is originally information system technology and business and things like that. But before even transitioning to America, I realized that even within my own family and environment, I've always been the helper. I've always been the one that people come to, or that I end up being the one to take care of other people. And so when I moved to America, I started off in this industry as a caregiver, as a CNA, a DSP. So I'm used to providing direct one-on-one care. Um, and I just continued, throughout my career. I learned how to do it. I gradually moved up the ladder from there. And now I'm in this role where we are a provider. I'm able to work with a provider that is very passionate about serving the community, serving those that have um, any form of disabilities, the youths, the parents, the families, and just being an advocate overall, for the persons that we serve. And I'm truly honored to be part of this panel, and I hope to have a great conversation with everyone. Also, I am out of the country, so if my network is lagging or if there's any issues there, please bear with me. I might have to turn off my camera just to make sure that, my network is still great, but I wanted everyone to see my face before I did that so you can see the face behind the name. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Richard Iwane. I'm a Program and Operations Coordinator here at Mercy and Healthcare. Just like Raisa, actually, initially, I didn't start off in this line of work. I started off actually in politics. After graduating from Ohio Northern University, I went back home to Cameroon, where I'm from, and I worked in political communications. And then I had an opportunity to work with an NGO that served disadvantaged populations, underserved populations, part of whom were people with disabilities. And I started off part-time, but I found it so rewarding that I transitioned into a more full-time position. So when I transitioned back to America a few years later, I decided to stay in that field. I worked as a DSP for a while, and yeah, all these years later, I'm still in here, doing everything that I can to see that these persons that we serve are treated with dignity and have a great quality of life. So thank you for having me.
Thank you all for sharing your experiences. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and add a spotlight for everyone so we can have all our panelists in one space. Give me 1 second.
There's a spotlight on everyone I know, including the new interpreter.
I was switching it on and off for one person at a time since they were speaking, but I'll add it to everyone again. Okay, I got Tiffany, Raisa, and Adrian. Great. And the interpreters are still on. If you can just support with making sure that the interpreters have their spotlight as well, just in case anything happens. All right. So to begin our first round of questions, we'll explore some of the challenges youth and families experience as they navigate the transition into adulthood. Children and youth with special healthcare needs often face added complexity during the transition to adulthood. Where do you see the greatest gaps in services, supports, and care during this transition? For this question, we'll begin with Tiffany, followed by Raisa, Richard, and Adrian.
From an advocacy standpoint, and just now being a parent of a teenager, I think it's really important for families to continue to educate the young folks so that they know more about their bodies. Like, that you have, over what is it, over 200 bones, over 600 muscles, those basic things that your kidneys, where your kidneys are and how they function. I just think a lot of our young people have no access or understanding of what their bodies entail and how important it is to take care of themselves, to drink the water, to eat the vegetables, to do the exercising and things like just on a very basic level. Are we educating our young people about their bodies? Are we being forward thinking around disease and things like prevention, from being diabetic or high blood pressure at an early age, not at 40 and 50 when it hits the fan, but being proactive with educating our young folks around their bodies, and being intentional about that. I think another concern for me as I, think about healthcare, is access to quality healthcare. I believe DC has more programs. We have, pretty good benefits for most folks and access to, opportunities. But I think it's about the quality of healthcare. I think it's a concern around our health professionals' biases around people needing supports if they are on public benefits versus private insurances, versus what communities they live in. I think those are major concerns as I look at, prevention things or things around pain management. We know a lot of folks can complain about pain or complain about mental health issues, and they're kind of like brushed away as if those are not real concerns or real problems. And so those are some of the on the surface issues that I feel definitely need more attention.
Thank you. All right, we'll pass it to Raisa.
So, just like Tiffany said, she touched on a lot of great points there. Coming from the perspective of a home and community-based service provider with the Department on Disability Services, a lot of the issues that we are noticing that our families and persons are facing, or the youths, is with gaps in the healthcare system in terms of the transition period. From the moment that they leave the school system where everything seems to be organized, you go to one place for all your resources. Now it transitions into you're an adult. There's different pieces involved. There's different moving parts that you have to coordinate to ensure that you have a wholesome care. And that is really where a lot of things fall in, they just break apart. A lot of family members don't get into the IDD waiver, for example, until the child is maybe advanced in the years. And it can take you 1 to 2 years to get approved. So that's 1 to 2 years of you just sitting without any care. And it can be really expensive to pay for services out of pocket. And so the transition from the school system, from when there are youths into adulthood, that is one where there's a lot of gaps into the system. And it would be great if we could, navigate that gap, help to educate them. Providers like myself can come in. We with the IDD waiver, with the Department on Disability Services, we can come in and explain the process to the youths and the families, get them to understand what they need to work on ahead of time, what they would need to have for their transition period so that they can be fully prepared. Because it takes a lot of documentation. It's a lot of moving parts. You have to submit paperwork. You have to do doctor's appointments. And it can be overwhelming if you try to do it in a rush at the very last minute. But if it's organized and it's properly done, then it's more of a seamless process. An example here is, let's say we receive a young adult that has seizures, for example. Normally he's used to going to like his primary neurologist through HSCSN or through his insurance, and then now it's like we need to get the documents from that provider in order to qualify him to receive behavioral support services. Sometimes navigating those two, just us getting that documentation, can be a handful, and the family members end up having, the ones at the short end of the stick here, because they are the ones that have to go run around, look for things to get done, as well as still handle, their lives outside of just making sure that their loved one is cared for. That is the biggest one overall that we have seen that is difficult. So educating the families, study, if you could get approved as early as 18, just get approved and you can say, well, I don't need any services for now. Just renew every now and then, maybe see an OT or PT, so that when you do need, whether it's residential services, behavioral services, community-based services, or anything like that, where you need it, you have these resources available. And also for you to have that, understand what the waiver covers, what it does not cover, what you have to prepare for outside of the waiver, and know if you have to add on, these different programs to help you gain sufficient support for your loved ones in a reasonable time.
Thank you, Raisa. We'll pass it to Richard and then Adrian. If you need me to repeat the question, just let me know.
Yeah, sorry, my camera's acting up a little bit. But the only thing that I think I would add to what the others have said is, when in the transitional period, you are moving from a system where everything is centralized, and you have all these programs in one place, to, as an adult, a system where a lot of these different services have to be separately and individually requested, authorized, and coordinated. And I think that oftentimes when families are ill prepared for the transition, you can easily find yourself missing out on certain services that you require, just because, again, you're going from a centralized system to a place where you have to find a separate clinician, find different physicians to take care of the different needs that you may have.
Thank you. All right, pass it to you, Adrian.
Okay. Thank you. I believe, from my experience, the gaps occur early on because the transition process isn't organized. And what happens is, instead of it being like planned out with various milestones along the way, it's haphazardly done. And for a student with challenges who participates in their IEP meetings, it's that area of the IEP is rarely discussed, and it's overlooked. It often gets maybe 1 or 2 hours a school year. And I think that approach on the back end leads to a lot of anxiety that could be avoided for the student as well as the family. Um, and I've done my research. There are other school systems that um, perform their transition services with fidelity. For instance, Montgomery County. Once their students are graduating, everything is packaged to where, if they need the SSI, if they need anything for post-secondary, they've already addressed all of that, and then they're ready to move on after high school. It would be great if we could get to that level of proficiency, but you know, you just have to work with what you have at this point. But I do plan on utilizing external sources outside of the district to make sure my child stays on and gets all the service. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone reflecting on me, on these questions with me. So now let's transition to our next question, where we'll talk a little bit of how these systems work together and where there are opportunities for improvement. So let's focus on systems like education, behavioral health, workforce development, housing stability, and/or community safety. How do these systems either align or conflict when supporting children and youth with special healthcare needs moving into adulthood? For this question, we'll begin with Adrian, then go to Raisa, Richard, and Tiffany. I'll pass the floor to you, Adrian.
Okay, thank you. Um, for this question, I believe all of these areas are interrelated, but a key point of assistance can be the pediatrician's office, especially if you're in the MedStar or the children's health system. They're often able to give you the referrals that you need, especially if your child is having some anxiety during the puberty and not understanding, this new period of life. That's one of the key pieces that is often overlooked, but I think it's critical because if your student isn't comfortable in their skin, I feel as though they can't perform their best um, in their education and as well with their peers. So I'm aware that some of the there's some resilience training available for 14-year-olds. They have various type of group therapy where they can speak with their peers about common issues. And I think that helps the process, while often the parents are in the background getting the paperwork um, part of the process completed. Thank you.
All right, we'll pass it to Raisa.
So, um, for this question, I think I'm going to focus a little bit more on the behavioral health section of it all. Um, the Department of Behavioral Health focuses heavily on behavioral health in general within the district. And so the Department on Disability has a behavioral health program that can help adults that have disabilities. Now, these systems operate in a silos. If a youth is transitioning from adulthood and they're exhibiting serious behavioral challenges like self-injurious behaviors or heavy aggression or verbal aggression or anything like that, if just a standalone DSP would not be sufficient to manage that person's behavior, the two departments need to collaborate with one another. Let's say from the Department of Behavioral Health, the consumer or the caseworker, the CSW, right, that is working with this person. It will be great for them to be aligned or to be part of the meetings that we are having as far as this individual is concerned, whether it's the ISP meeting, the IEP meeting, for example, just to overall discuss and have everyone in the different departments, right, talking about this individual and how they can be best serviced because we may only behaviors are different depending on the environment. The behaviors at home might be different from the behaviors in the community. It might be different from the behaviors, when they're around their family, around strangers. And so there's different moving parts to this. So it would be great to have a unified plan for the person to support them. So sometimes it's like, yeah, we're all helping, but then we're not aligned together. And so it might lead to one person, it might lead to like, one doing the same thing over again while missing key points that could really help the youth. And also, DDS does not necessarily offer like housing services per se, but it does offer residential assistance. And the residential assistance offered through DDS may not be fully covered by the Department of Housing, depending on the kind of plan you get based on your need overall, because they do assess, the person's need overall to determine which, how should the funding work. And it would be great for all these different departments to align one another to have meetings where we're talking about the person's housing. What do they need? Are they able to stay with a loved one, a family? What kind of housing assistance would be best for them based on their behavioral health in general? In what situation are they going to thrive? In the school system, again, that's great because it's under one umbrella, right? But then when you become an adult, it's like now you have these different moving parts. Coming back to our first question, that you have to talk to. And a lot of times, if the parent or the guardian or the person is not um, savvy enough to remember to link all these departments together, it falls. A lot of conversation. It's like they feel like they're having the same conversation over and over again with different providers or different departments, and yet they feel like they're still not supported to the way they want because one is saying I'm not available on this day. This is how we do it. The other one is saying no, this is how we do it. And then overall, the family or the person is frustrated, and there's that lack of unified care. So, you know, as far as I know, that we've had certain instances like that where we really hope that we will be able to be brought in with the different departments to have this conversation, see what medications are taking, who is a psychiatrist, because sometimes we need documents filled out by that psychiatric provider if they have a behavioral issue. And that can be very challenging. That can take us 3 weeks to get one paperwork filled out, maybe even months. And that's one document is what we need maybe to make sure that this person is approved for one-on-one care, like the level of need that they want. But because this particular provider is not filling it out, they're left with just whatever we have to offer them at the time. But if we came in at the very beginning, we're able to build that relationship with these different agencies, and it facilitates, you know what I mean, any documentation, any assistance that is needed because they're aware of what is happening in the person's care.
Thank you. And then Richard and Tiffany, if you all had anything to add to this question.
Not much to add. I would just say that, like Raisa was saying, they're moving from in their transition, they're moving from a system where, legally the school, for example, has to provide the service that they need. And then when they hit 22, that guarantee, disappears. Instead, they enter an adult system where, it's, getting help is not a given anymore. It all depends on whether they qualify, if there's enough room in the budget, how long the wait lists are, and so on. So essentially, they're going from a system that must serve them to one which is a little more arbitrary, and whether or not there's enough funding to serve them. So federal and state systems that support the IDD community, such as DDS and for the IDD and IFS or individual family services, waivers, DBH for mental health and housing, and RSA, so Rehabilitation Services Administration for Employment, are often misaligned, when supporting children and youth moving into adulthood. And again, that's where some of the conflict might emerge. And this is, again, due to lack of integration of those systems. So again, and that's just one of the issues where you can see that some of these might conflict with one another.
Yep, I would like to just add a few points for the parents and the professionals that are on this call. I think a big deal of what we need more of in the district is transparency and accountability. A lot of families and even some professionals are not aware of which agency is supposed to take the lead or which agency is supposed to, do certain things for the person, whether it's the young person or the adult. We work with several people and several systems. And for example, I've been a part of a process that wants to look at what's happening with transition age youth coming out of high school. And so there's one particular case I've worked with. The young person has a diagnosis, and I'm going to the IEP and I'm listening to 12 team members talk about this person, what he can and what he cannot do, and these types of things. You have a system. Our RSA protocol is the family is responsible for calling their RSA person to have them at the table. The family did that. The family emailed, and so we have our transition person that's not at the table to take in all of the conversations from all of those professionals and say, this is how we're going to manage this on the other side of graduation. So we're at the IEP. The transition person was not at this particular meeting. I'm hearing these folks talk about a particular diagnosis that will, in particular, keep the person away from good employment, because of how he processed. He's smart, he's clean, he's supportive, he's respectful. He has all of those nuggets. He's on time and all those types of things, but he has a particular diagnosis that if we do not manage it, it's going to be a complete failure one day after graduation. And so unless you have somebody at the table to help the families, families who may not be aware of how it feels when you cross the street, they don't know. They're just trying to get through school. And I get that. But for myself, I work, on the adult side too. So I know that if we don't manage this diagnosis, and can we fix it? No. I want to be real with everybody on this call. We can't fix it. We're not magicians. But what we are charged to do, especially if you're walking around with a PhD, is to have some strategies. I'm not asking for magic as an advocate, as a human being, and I see all the potential with these young folks with no strategies. We can look on almost every other corner in DC and look at groups of people who did not get their strategies. We can't fix the economy. We can't make $2,500 apartments $600 again, those types of things. But we can put some strategies and some empowerment in place so that people are more successful when they, come out of school. And so that's all I was asking this person. And that's all that I'm asking people on this phone call. Like, that the least we could do is provide strategies. The least we can do is provide transparency in our roles. And myself, having spent so much time in advocacy, I kind of know where some people are supposed to do things, but holding people accountable. Yes, so and so may not have done their job, but I know what they're supposed to do, and I know how this is supposed to feel. So let me say something. I know how it's supposed to feel on the adult side. The adult side, the young folks should have had their work-based experiences, opportunities for volunteerism, opportunities for community service, and all of those things, whether they have a disability or not, strengthens their journey on the adult side. And so I just would say the transparency in our roles, that's what a lot of families need. So they know exactly who to call and they know exactly what's supposed to happen. And I think that's where a lot of gaps and challenges are. And folks are just burnt out from chasing. They shouldn't have to chase, because we know what's supposed to happen. Within our roles, we know what's supposed to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for those powerful answers. I'm loving the conversations in the chat. Shout out to Chioma. I am really appreciating all the love and emojis you all are getting through this conversation. We did have one more question, and it was about what happens and the consequences to losing access to coordinated care and transition planning. But you all did an amazing job at just really touching on the details to that as you all presented and just focusing on we need to be able to strategize into providing more support with coordinated care among the organizations and also putting the youth into the discussion and welcoming their voice. So definitely appreciate that. Before we move to round two of questions, we'd like to hear from everyone joining us today. So we're actually going to launch our second Zoom poll to better understand where our community, you all joining us today, see the greatest opportunities for improvement. So, question two is asking which systems do you believe needs the greatest improvement to better support CSHN transitioning to adulthood? So, this is children and youth with special healthcare needs transitioning to adulthood. We have healthcare access and continuity, education and transition planning, behavioral health and services supports, employment and workforce pathways, housing and independent living supports, and finally, cross-system coordination and care navigation. If you have something else besides the answers listed here, please feel free to share them in the chat. Thank you. I'll give you all a couple more seconds. Thank you, Carla. All right. So I'll go ahead and share this, but to no surprise, the largest and most voted was definitely cross-system coordination and care navigation. I'm glad we can all agree that we definitely need to continue finding ways that we can support caregivers because it's not fair that they have to go from agency to another agency to communicate with another agency and be the messenger in between these systems rather than be supported by all these systems. Thank you all for that. I will now transition us into our next round of discussion. For this round, we will be speaking about framing youth safety. In this section, we'll explore the barriers that can make it difficult for youth with disabilities to feel safe, included, and supported across schools, communities, and public systems. For each question, we'll begin with Adrian, and then we'll pass it to Tiffany, Raisa, and Richard. And I'll remind you all again. So the first question is, what barriers make it more difficult for children and youth with special healthcare needs to feel safe and supported at school, in the community, and/or public systems? I'll pass it to Adrian.
Thank you. Um, the main barrier that comes to mind is the student's level of understanding, and that is in conjunction with whether or not they're from a different culture, whether they speak a different language, whether they have a learning challenge that um, views things to a different lens. And once they enter into that transition period, there are more adult discussions and adult interactions that they don't know how to navigate. And that's when oftentimes they have to lean on their parents or a member of their medical team to help them understand the new societal norms that they'll be operating under. Thank you.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think our barriers, it goes right back to the foundation around their personal education, what they're receiving in the home, their level of self-awareness. We spend a lot of times as parents or professionals taking care and connecting to services and all those types of things. And it's a checkoff box for some folks. But when we go back to looking at the person as a human being and all the things that you need to know as a person, you know, from, greasing your scalp to washing your feet, you know, yet we spend a lot of times just telling somebody what to do, what to do, what to do. So we talked about accountability, but the folks that we serve with disabilities, they have to get into a process of being accountable to themselves, and that's language I have not heard a lot about, what I have to take care of myself as a person. Yes. And I have to lead, be in front of my journey. Yes. And I have to tell my team what I want. Yes. And giving them opportunities and experiences and some time to make some of their own mistakes so that they can continue to define their world. And so yes, definitely a barrier I would say would be the self-awareness and promote, helping them along the way to learn more about themselves. I would say also, again, the bias that they will encounter in the world about how people see people with disabilities. Do we believe that people with disabilities can have sex or have relationships, and how do we nurture those conversations and those pathways for people to live full lives? And another barrier I would say would be bullying, and how people see themselves, and how they manage how people see them, how they think people see them. And so I think that begins some of the barriers. And of course, systems need to continue to collaborate for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Passing it to Raisa and then Richard.
Okay. So, I mean, Tiffany pretty much hit it on the nail alongside with Miss Adrian right here. Um, what I would say, just like what, they already mentioned, there's a lot of labels placed on persons that have disabilities and limitations, and sometimes even uh, this stop trying. You know what I mean? Just be like, okay, well, I guess they're never gonna do this, they're never gonna do that, and then it limits them from experiencing life like they should or like they could. Just because this is happening does not mean that you should not allow them to explore, like Miss Tiffany mentioned, maybe relationships that might help them out. Explore maybe having a job, maybe being part of like the Mayor Bowser employment program where they can go and volunteer with a caregiver that is with them, or even allowing them to try. Because what happens is they just sometimes it end up just being really babied, you know what I mean, into they cannot do it, it's not possible, and just kind of boxed up into this category that has been placed for them. And so it's hard for us as providers when we're coming in to say, okay, well, now let's try. We're trying when you're already like 22 and upwards. That's like 20 years of your life of just knowing, not being able to do that. And so it's going to take so much more time for us to help them to adapt, or even try to get them to be able to learn again. Are we going to be able to heal them? No, we're not going to be able to, like, magically transform them, but at least we don't want them to have that limitation of I cannot do it. Try and do it your own way. You might not do it the way that we think is right, but do it your own way and at least try. Try to get out of that comfort zone. Try to push for it. You might not be able to brush your teeth the way I brush my own, but at least you remember I have to brush my teeth. And that is what is important, right? And then now that's where the caregivers come in to say, okay, well, you did it well, but let's try to do a little bit more. And then gradually, slowly but surely, it could get to a point where the person is able to have a meaningful life. It might not be perfect, but at least it's so I think even, like for the parents, going back here to the parents because they're the foundation of this person, and the person themselves too being accountable, like the youth themselves taking responsibility. Okay, I have to try, not giving up and wanting to try. And the families and the parents not giving up on them and continuing to explore them. Okay, we went to A, they didn't like it, let's go to B. They don't like it, let's go to C. I know it can be overwhelming, I know it can be tiring and redundant and frustrating, but I think not giving up is the reason why we're all caregivers. That's the reason why we're here. No matter how hard it gets, we still try to, you know, put our foot forward and try to move forward one step at a time, just assisting them and showing them that it's possible for meaningful life in your own way. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You can have a meaningful life in your own way.
Okay, I guess just a couple of things to add. I think that one major barrier is just lack of disability-informed understanding. Some of these persons, communicate through gestures, maybe assistive technology, signs, facial expressions. And when teachers, health workers, transit employees, and so on, expect everyone to communicate verbally and respond immediately, disability-related behavior sometimes can be viewed as defiance almost or aggression, instead of, lack of understanding. So communication barriers, are they're not just inconvenient; they really can directly affect access, treatment, and safety for these persons. Sometimes at school, for example, this can even, turn from a support need into a disciplinary issue, just because the student might have sensory overload, anxiety, maybe some pain. And it's important, therefore, that people are well trained in order to be able to interact with these persons that we serve. I also think that there's sometimes a disconnect between, for example, the school and the young person's external care team. So an IEP may identify, therapeutic communication, behavior, and needs, but those supports cannot be implemented effectively if teachers, families, and the community providers, if they don't exchange information, right? Right. Again, we're going back to functioning in silos. So if staff do not understand a student's seizure protocol, for example, then it's difficult for their care to be for there to be continuity in their care. So that coordination between the external caregivers and people and caregivers in school has to occur in practice. Again, not just it's not enough to have just the documentation, but that coordination really, I think, has to happen in practice. And the last thing I would say is I think there are really actual physical barriers as well. A lot of these persons do have accessibility needs. And so simple things like broken sidewalks or just inaccessible transportation or buildings without appropriate entrances or restrooms can honestly overwhelm a person who has those needs. And an event may technically be open to everyone, but it's not really inclusive if a young person with a disability is unable to access the venue, for example. So I think again, those are some of the barriers that these persons might face.
Thank you all. I really do recognize that you all touched on a lot of the challenges that young people with disabilities face, especially when interacting with systems or individuals who may not understand their needs, like Richard was just saying. It may be open to all, but it's not open to all, or just their communication styles or lived experiences. So the final question for this round is going to talk about how can schools, communities, and public systems ensure that there are safety approaches rooted in disability awareness, trust, and support rather than surveillance by individuals who lack disability informed training. So we'll go with Adrian, then pass it to Tiffany, Raisa, and Richard.
Daniela, before you begin, can you repeat the question?
Yes, one more time.
Thank you.
No worries. Let me get a second. So the question, how can schools, communities, and public systems ensure that safety approaches are rooted in disability awareness, trust, and support rather than surveillance by individuals who lack disability-informed training? Adrian, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Okay, I think realistically, especially with the neurodivergent population um increases, there needs to be a uniform protocol when engaging with the various disabilities, especially individuals who may have a challenge where their um, anxiety or misunderstanding of like instructions from the police can be misconstrued as non-compliance and then leads to escalation when if they were properly trained on the community, they would understand that you know that's not the case. I've done research in some communities are flagging the ID cards to let the police know that the individual is neurodivergent. And I'm hopeful that places that are instituting that change, they're also doing the adequate training so that the individuals understand how to engage versus escalate. Thank you.
I'm not sure if my colleague is online today, but I do know that Rhonda White is supporting a conversation with the Metropolitan Police Department with other parents and disability advocates here in DC around engaging and supporting people with disabilities. And so that is a conversation that's on the table, and they're going through all the protocols and the best practices and things like that. So that is a conversation. I can put you in touch after this call, so that you can add to the conversation. But safety is such a, again, another um, layer with so many multiple tiers. A lot of folks, I've been speaking with young folks, different arenas around the city, you know, very much concerned about their physical safety and the violence here in DC. Very much ready to move when they graduate, because they have no control on how to manage it, and it is definitely a stressor, and is definitely traumatic to a lot of our people, a lot of our district citizens. And so that is a major concern. But when I think about safety as well, beyond physical safety, we have the emotional safety. A lot of our young folks live in homes that are experiencing trauma and domestic violence. And I just want to put that language out there so that, as we move past this call, that families can manage my emotional safety and my mental safety and financial safety. Financial literacy is a huge conversation for people with disabilities. They definitely have some concerns around their ability to make money, yet have some foundation in receiving some of their public benefits, and how, if they make money, how that can compromise or possibly compromise their ability to manage other benefits. And so having those conversations, those holistic safety conversations around our physical health, our mental health, our financial health, it's a huge deal. And I do, before I get off of this topic and, let another panelist in, I do want to put out there that we do not talk enough about suicide, um, and the suicide rates hitting the fan in our city, um, with students and young people of color, men. A lot of the statistics around men committing suicide, and so we do not talk about it. We do not have strategies, on the ground strategies for people, or just you know, we need to keep those resources at arm's length, because the students are asking about it. They're asking strangers about it. I've gone exhibiting, and I'm, talking to young folks. Hey, you got something for kids who experiencing who want to commit suicide? And I'm like, oh my goodness. So it is bursting at the seams. It might be a quiet flame, but I want folks to keep that in mind. Students are young folks are committing suicide. Young people, people in our city, people of color, these populations are, increasing. And so we want to be proactive about that conversation. We can't fix it, but we can have those resources. We can have conversations with students. We can give them those strategies that kind of help manage anxiety and depression in a different kind of way. So yes, safety is definitely a big deal. We need to have those conversations throughout the school, the adult system, the mental health system. Definitely need to come up with better strategies to assist. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Yeah. I'm not really sure what I can add here, Daniela. They pretty much mentioned everything. I do know that I think I was at the Prince George's, some kind of Prince George's County Award, and the law that Miss Adrian mentioned and that Tiffany mentioned, and I'm so happy to hear that on, is actually the Eric's ID law. That's what was passed in Maryland, where put a butterfly on the ID card of anyone that has a non-visible immediate disability, so that when law enforcement or even just first responders in general are responding, they're aware, they're more patient, they're aware that they're more careful with what they're doing. And so I'm really happy that DC is working on something like that, because we definitely need it. There are a lot of people that when you just look at them, you would not think that they have any form of disability. You would not know that they're neurodiverse. You may just think that, oh, this is a normal person. And like Richard mentioned, they may be getting into a behavior because they're overstimulated, but then you coming in as, responding to a call for help, you may situation a little bit different. And again, like Tiffany mentioned, emotional safety is a very big deal. And that's why I think for us, I think DDS in general is very big on person centered thinking, training in general, as far as the family is concerned, as far as the provider is concerned, as far as even the staff is concerned, because it's very easy for the person's needs to, just kind of get watered down into this is what is good for you. And that could lead to the person no longer living a meaningful life. It could lead to depression. It can carry on and lead to suicide. There's a lot of things that could happen. And so if we're not being mindful and careful to realize that we're dealing with, still take a step back, even as providers, right? Even as caregivers, providers, as parents, take a step back to still make sure that the person is at the center of the care. We're looking at it from a holistic point of view. That's amazing, and that's one thing that I'm very proud. DDS enforces like never before, like person-centered care. It's all about bringing the people together, enforcing it, making sure that your priority is known from the top to the bottom of the organization. They all have to take this trip, and hopefully the ideal law will be put in place soon. That would be very helpful. Especially when even caregivers go out with their love, with the persons they're working with. Let's say they just turn their back and then something happens. By the time they want to start explaining, you don't know what the other person is going through. You don't know how the reaction is going to be. So that would be helpful. But yeah, nothing much to add. You guys pretty much said it all.
Thank you all. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm
Um,
actually, oh, sorry,
oh,
Richard, go
oh, I'm
ahead.
sorry. That's fine. No, not honestly, not much to say. I just wanted to say, I think that, when crafting safety approaches, we have to make sure that people with disabilities and their families, caregivers are included in that process. Because I do think that when people who have lived experience help design a system, then that system is more likely to be responsive to the needs of the persons, and respectful, practical and humane. I also think that there needs to be clear accountability. Staff who interact with students with disabilities, have to be well trained, as someone spoke about, adequate training before, supervised and evaluated on whether or not their actions actually protect, these persons that we serve. And I think that these measures as well should be reviewed constantly, just to make sure that they're not, disproportionately targeting people who are disabled, or even turning disability-related behavior into a security issue, as we talked about before. And ultimately, I just think that the guiding principle should be that safety is not really just about trying to watch them more closely or restricting their lives. We have to It should be an effort towards understanding them better, preparing environments to meet their needs, and again, building relationships with them that way, and they can live as dignified as possible, and making sure that they have as much choice as possible in these decisions that are being made on their behalf. So I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Richard. Completely agree. Those who are directly impacted and experience this on an everyday basis should be treated and acknowledged for their expertise and be a part of the table and the conversation, especially when different policies or new policies are being trying to put onto the District of Columbia. So thank you for that. We're now going to transition through to our third poll. This question is asking you all, what are the biggest barriers to youth thriving in DC, in your opinion? So you can select up to three. We have mental and behavioral health access, housing stability, school to adulthood transition gaps, violence and community safety concerns, lack of disability inclusive services, employment and job readiness gaps, transportation access, and social isolation, or lack of belonging. We took a chance at inviting some council offices And we were really hoping the Committee on the Judiciary and Public Safety was be able to be here. And that committee is spearheaded by Councilmember Pinto. So I really hope that they take a chance to take along this feedback and the video recording of this panel to really continue to tap into your personal experiences as you all are directly involved into this work. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give you all a couple more seconds to drop your answer. Okay, thank you. So for this one, I'll go ahead and share the results. The most voted was violence and community safety concerns. Um, thank you. And then the second closest with most votes was school to adulthood transition gaps. So thank you all for that. We'll move on to our final round of questions. In a little bit, we'll get to hear from you all, so I'm really hoping we can get there. But for this round, we're going to be discussing building a vision for youth thriving, where we'll explore recommendations to help young people reach their full potential. For each question, we'll begin with Tiffany, followed by Adrian, Raisa, and Richard. So, the first question, how can youth development programs, schools, and community organizations better integrate mental health, disability supports, and workforce pathways? I'll pass it to Tiffany. Oh, I think she got kicked off. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Oh, she's here. Never
Yeah,
mind.
I'm here if you can hear me. How can they better integrate? I would just imagine is the communication and the accountability. And it's also a vision of what do we want to see happen with those young folks when they leave our program. We have these programs, we have check off boxes, we have budgets, but what about the person? What does that look like? Does this person have to stay in a program, or is there a chance for them to graduate and stand 10 toes down? You know, Otherwise, DC has a million programs. You can go in and out as often as you like, but are we preparing people and holding them accountable, as best as we can? Yeah, some people will need the support of a program for sure. But I meet a lot of people who can do more with accountability, with expectation, and with programs who have a vision that folks stand 10 toes down and just to get out here and be more independent. So as far as, I just feel like the accountability and expectations mean a lot. In general, with building a new vision, it's not about how much I give you, but how much or the quality of how I support, teach you to fish, basically. The quality of that teaching you to fish, because a lot of folks can do more, I believe. And I think over time, with budgets being cut and different administrations, they're going to be held accountable to do more in a different way. And even our programs will be accountable to managing our efforts in a different way. And so I think it's going to be imperative that we get folks ready to fish. Um, and I think it's okay for most folks can do more fishing. So
Thank you, Tiffany. I'll pass it to Adrian.
Thank you. Just to add on to what Tiffany was sharing about the fishing approach, I'd like to um, speak from the viewpoint of the parent and the student. Many cases, we don't know what's in the pond, and that is time consuming, it's stressful, and maybe it will be helpful in that transition period that's supposed to start at age 14, that there would be some contact with a liaison at DOES so they can find out what programs are out there and they can begin making some preparations because perhaps there's some executive functioning skills they can work on to help them enjoy a better placement in the career track that will be not just rewarding financially, but one that they won't have the anxiety attached to that experience. And as far as I know, there isn't that Venn diagram approach where the knowledge and the availability of the right fit occurs. It would be great if there could be opportunities like that for the students because um, I don't know what it's like to have the processing issues. I don't understand what it's like, what the other challenges that they face regularly, but everyone has stress regardless of their disability when it comes to job search. And I would only expect that it would be more stressful for them who have challenges, additional barriers to employment. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Raisa and Richard, would you all like to add anything?
Just one minor thing I would like to add. As far as a responsibility that organizations could do is showing up to things like this, coming to events that are organized with family members with direct feedback, input, share direct information. There is a lot of resources in DC. It's so many, it's so much that it's overwhelming sometimes. And you don't know what you don't know, right? So if you have never been exposed to resources, you just don't know. There's nothing you can do about it. Be sitting there when something could be working for your loved one or for your family. So for organizations like ourselves, Mercyland being one, uh, showing up to things like this, having that initial groundwork conversation with families, not waiting for things to kind of be passed out by the government for it to be official, like an official policy that you have to do, but actually showing up where you're at, showing up where you could talk to families, get feedback from them, learn about what their needs are, where the gaps are, where what you can actually do to make a difference, whether it's the Department of EOS showing up or, Department of DC or healthcare providers like myself showing up, that primary population that we serve. Coming to events like this, supporting, letting EAG and other organizations know that they're doing a job. We're here to support them. We're here to keep encouraging them. And this would be a trickle down effect to the family members so that we providers, we as organizations that are aware of the resources that they need, we are the ones responsible for educating them and tell them, hey, this is what we can offer to you. This is how you can have access to it. This is what you need to be eligible for it. This is when it's recommended for you to start applying for it. Just having that conversation alone, I think would help the pathway be a lot better. Even though we might not be directly able to like employ them, we are able to help them to volunteer, work them towards employment, let them start with volunteering and figure out what they like to do. That is something that providers like myself can help them with. We can help them volunteer, find out what is it that they want to do, and then transition them into employment. And even when they are employed, we can still offer them assistance while they are employed, still help them to know, okay, the help is there to redirect you on what you have to do. So they feel, like you mentioned, they feel excited going to work. It's like it's a new day. They're excited. They started from volunteering, now they're employed, they're getting paid, they're becoming independent. And it all starts from just being part of the conversation. So I think organizations need to be, whether it's the government, healthcare institutions, providers, whatever, we need to be more present in conversations like this. We need to hear what the problems are, think about it, try to see what we can do, not just sitting back and figuring out, okay, this should work, that should work. No, you have to be present to know exactly where the need is, where the pain point is. But yeah, that's everything. Thank you.
Just really, really briefly, I think that one of the things that needs to happen is, mental health, disability support, workforce preparation should be treated as one connected system, not three separate services. So, for example, mental health support can be embedded into workforce programming. And not treated as something separate that young people have to go and seek elsewhere. So, for example, a good program should ask, trying to find out whether the youth is, emotionally ready for the placements. Do they have transportation? Do they actually understand the expectations? Do they know, for example, who to call if they feel overwhelmed? And also, they also need to be taught how to request for accommodations if they need those. And then schools and community organizations, I think they should do the best they can to partner with employers who are maybe willing to be trained on disability awareness, and youth development. That way, they can understand, employers can understand that professionalism, should not be confused with masking a disability, or hiding stress, and trying to force every person to communicate in the same way. They have to be sensitive to the needs of these persons that are placed with them.
Oh man, I have like all these fire emojis. You guys are dropping gems on us, and I love it. Thank you all so much. Especially I hold deep and close to my heart mental health advocacy. And so just naming Tiffany, going back to you, just having a toolkit of resources to know how to talk about suicide. And then Richard, just being able to name again the integration between these systems. Thank you all. All right, so now we're going to move to our second question, and we'll start with Tiffany. So, our second question is, what strategies can families use in their day-to-day lives to navigate care?
Just a few simple ones just to get you started. Um, Definitely create your priorities. Definitely take a look at your person, what their needs are, where are the gaps, how can you be more proactive? Um, I would tell any family, if you want to enter into a system that has a web page, get on that web page. We're waiting. Sometimes we kind of position to wait for someone to do, or wait for someone to tell us. And let me just encourage everyone on the call to get on those folks' webpage and drop down who's who, what's what are they supposed to do, how long they've been around, um, you know, who are the players, who manages that system, who manages Department of Disability Services, all those types of things. You can also see if you go onto dds.dc.gov, you can drop down and see the policies. You can see it as a family member. What's supposed to happen? How early can you get that service? You can fill out the application. So anything you're trying to access, most of these things have web pages now where you can learn more about it. And I would say that foundationally, I would also suggest that families understand, and the person as a self advocate and the family understand the diagnosis, how it will manifest, what supports or strategies are needed to support that effort, to support that person through the next phases. A lot of folks, families sometimes cannot articulate the diagnosis. So we're unable to figure out, you know, a pathway. And so I would encourage families to understand that diagnosis, be able to tell those professionals, be able to hold those therapists or whoever their clinicians are accountable. If you have recommendations on your IEP and you're finding out, month after month after month, this student doesn't have their aid, you have to question that. Yeah, the school's supposed to do it. They're supposed to. We all know they're supposed to. Sometimes there's gaps. And so we encourage families to look at those gaps because, again, if you don't get it right and on the school side, there's going to be definite challenges on the adult side in this economy. So we encourage folks, if your person is still in school or not, look at these folks' protocols, be proactive, understand diagnosis, those types of things, understand the strategies or create strategies that work for you. Sometimes, my strategy might not be your strategy, so I would encourage families, create your strategy and try some things. You might have to try something new. You might have to try it out of order. It might be forward for me and backwards for you, but we gonna get to the same finish line or the desired finish line. So I would encourage families to do some of those basic things, learning about those systems, learning about the players, learning about policy. And again, you can see a lot of different agencies' policies on their webpage, and also consider testimony and think whatever your complaint. But when you have, I don't want to say just complaining, but when you express concern, also express the strategy, also express the desired result, so that these professionals and these policymakers and things like that have a better understanding of what needs to happen or what's not happening at the table. Thank you.
All right, passing it to you, Adrian.
Oh, thank you. One of my strategies that I started long ago is daily communication, the highs and the lows. That's one way you can definitely get ahead of a problem before it snowballs. Another strategy is once your um, child is able to come to the table for the IEP meetings, make sure that they are involved and have a voice and share their reflections on the services. Um, Another strategy is always to have a plan B, C, and D. I teach that regularly because the way I was brought up, sometimes you have to go around or through a person to get what you want, and it's not personal. Um, it's just business, and that applies to the community of individuals who are neurodivergent or have any other challenges. We're still dealing with other humans, and there will be obstacles for a variety of biases. Don't take it personal, just find a way around them and to navigate the issue to um, and understanding that no isn't always no. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we can go to Richard and then Raisa.
Yes, I think one of the things that we can do is like a useful strategy is to build predictable routines, right? Just having a consistent schedule for medications, for meal, for hygiene, and things like that. Simple instructions that can help the person receiving care, participate more independently. Another piece of advice I would say give families is, they not try to manage everything on their own, right? Maybe identifying a small support circle, trusted relatives, friends, case managers, community workers who understand the person's needs. Even just one reliable person who can help with, I don't know, transportation, paperwork, respite, or something can really make a difference in with the family, because we have to keep in mind, that emotional support, caregiving can be really exhausting. Families have to make room for rest. I think that's really important. They have to put in place realistic plans for, breaks or backup care, and contingency plans for crisis situations before these crises show up, right? I think that care is not just about meeting the needs of the one person, but we also have to protect the stability and the well-being of the whole family. Because if that falls apart, then caring for the person also becomes a lot more difficult.
Thank you, Richard. I'll pass it to Raisa.
I really don't have anything else to add. I think everyone nailed it.
No worries. Thank you. All right. So on to the final question for this round, and then we'll move on to the Q&A portion. So if you all start have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll go on to that after this question. So when we discuss what it means for youth to thrive, how do we ensure youth, including young people with disabilities and complex healthcare needs, are included in the decisions that shape their lives? I'll pass it to Tiffany.
Self-advocacy is a huge conversation in our disability community. And so preparing young folks early or through the lifespan. So not just at the transition age, but as a lifestyle, self-advocacy. What about me? How did we get this? How do I get that? How do I change this service or this support or do something different that I want to do. And so I would say what changes is the empowerment around self-advocacy and working towards self-advocacy as a lifestyle. So not just in one phase of life, but throughout your whole life, you have to take care of yourself. You have to tell people what you want. You have to, look at how you access resources and opportunities. And definitely pushing young folks with disabilities. We talk about inclusion, but invite yourself to spaces that you're uninvited, and know that it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's okay. It will be okay. You will have something to learn, and so will that new audience. And so I would continue to promote self-advocacy here in this space.
Thank you. We'll pass it to Adrian.
Okay, thank you. One thing I think that's key is resiliency, and understanding what your challenges are and finding ways to either do some workarounds or to reinforce as much as you can. For instance, if you know that you're not strong in doing complex math, so maybe you say you're not going to be a scientist, but there's other things that you can do related to that you may find career success in. One thing I've always stressed is in any process, everybody plays a role. Just finding out what your role can be is key, even in your household. Knowing what your role is and, being able to perform that. Thank you.
All right. We'll pass it to either Raisa or Richard.
Um, so for this, I think the main thing as a provider that we implement overall is a tool called the PCT tools. I don't know if anyone here is familiar with them, but it's pretty much a person-centered thinking tool. This is making sure that we're thinking of what is important to the person and what is important for the person. We're looking at things like the relationship map, the circle, who is their circle of support, building routines on their good days, their bad days, And for us to understand all of these different moving parts, the person, of course, has to be part of the conversation because we are coming in, right? So this tool that we develop or that the program DDS has implemented is very helpful in making sure that they are very much so the center of their care, the center of the plans that are developed for them, whether it's their family members advocating for them or the persons doing it for themselves, proactively asking these questions that would lead to us understanding what making sure that the person is aware that, okay, whatever is done, I have to be the decision maker for this. They need to hear my voice, and also just encouraging them to not be afraid to say what they don't like, to not be afraid to take decisions that everyone else might think is not right. It's your choice. You have the right to receive services, to refuse services, to change who your caseworker is, to change who your who your person of contact is for a program. Like Ms. Adrian said, you don't you this, sometimes you just have to go around people. You just have to go around them. You might say, well, this particular liaison is not doing a good job for me. They're not helping me, and I want someone else. So, um, should never be scared or worried that you're gonna lose. You know what I mean? You're gonna lose something if you speak up for yourself. At best, I believe every professional here would advocate and tell you, hey, if you go that route, this is what it's going to look like. But at the end of the day, your independence is important. And so if you feel like, okay, this is what I want to do, then by all means, you have the right to do that. And I think that's what it means to thrive and to make sure that they are included into these conversations that we're having, not making decisions for them, not figuring out what we think they should be doing with their lives. It's like do helping them to advocate for themselves, to stand up, and never be limited to feel like, oh, I cannot do this, or I have to do this if I want to be in this program. No, the program is meant to support you, not control you. So it's supposed to work with you to make you thrive and not necessarily restrict you or label you or like Miss Tiffany said, everyone could do some more fishing. We could all learn a little bit more. We could all be accountable for the things that we do.
Thank you, Raisa. Richard, would you like to add anything?
No, it sounds great. I think that they've said it all.
Yes. All right. Thank you all. I just would like to point out that Rhonda was not able to come off of mute, but she did share a little bit about the work that the Family Support Council is doing. And so in the fall, MPD will return with the Family Support Council to address some of the training for the youth. And so if you all would like to join, that information will be shared out when we get that. Okay, so finally, we're going to end with our Q&A. I did want to save some time for reflection, so we'll just combine both so we can wrap up on time. If you have any reflections that you would like to come off mute or drop in the chat, feel free to do so. And if you also have any questions, we'll address them one at a time. So I'll be looking at the chat and also for any raised hands, let us know.
Lacey's raising her hand, Danny.
Oh, my apologies. Go ahead, Lacey.
Yes. So I was trying to find the function to raise the hand through Zoom. Sorry about that. So I did want to throw in some thoughts about self-advocacy. I completely understand the perspective, and I fully do support things that have been said, especially regarding that everyone has the right to self-advocate and the skills that they have, the skills that we need to teach people with disabilities. But at the same time, I really want to mention things that Richard mentioned previously about people who work with kind of working in those silos, working in those individual groups. And I tell you, that happens every day for people with disabilities. We go to one meeting, We have an advocate in that meeting. Okay, great. I'll be the self-advocate in that meeting. And then we go to another meeting where we have to be the self-advocate in this meeting again with a whole new group of people. So, really recognizing that self-advocacy itself is exhausting. So, we really need to figure out how we can support people in order to continue that self-advocacy work. And at the same time, understand that they have their self-advocacy, skills that they have to do every single day, and it's fatiguing. So that's just something that I wanted to add to the conversation because it shows up in, sometimes where I don't want to make the call to the office again, and I don't want to do this specific advocacy action. I don't want to deal with this person again because I've done it in the past because we're exhausted. So that's just something that was on my mind that I wanted to add to the conversation. It's not necessarily the individual's, you know, it's not necessarily that they need to learn this new skill always, but sometimes the system can change to lessen that fatigue and exhaustion. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lacey, for that important point, and can definitely agree of the siloed systems, moving in between them and the exhaustion that can happen. I want to highlight Carla's point that she mentioned this is truly a systemic issue. And then Chioma added peer support and mutual aid are a priority at AJE for AJE, and particularly the Health Justice Project. So again, she thanks you for the important point. And then I see Cece had a question. Who can assist with completing and expediting the child care subsidy application? Should that be your personal HSCSN care manager, or is there another person that's more suitable for that? Would anyone have an answer to that? And feel free to come off mute as well.
Um, so I would think again, that we're coming back to the whole silo things, right? I think HCSN would be the best to answer that. We all know about HCSN, but none of us are directly working with HCSN. At best, I would say contact a liaison there to find out, like if the person you're working with is not being responsive or not assisting you as much as you should, you could always request to talk to a supervisor, not to be that person, but request to talk to someone else above that could help expedite your process or can move you around to a different case manager. Case managers have a lot on their plates, and I understand it. I really feel for them. The work they do is critical, but a lot of them tend to not be as responsive as you would want them to, as far as moving things along. Um, and we're not we don't directly work with HSCSN at Mercyland Healthcare, so I may not be able to give you like a direct resource for that, but at least I can advise that maybe trying to speak to like a supervisor would definitely help answer some of those questions. Okay, all case managers have a supervisor, so ask to speak to someone above, and then hopefully they can redirect you to someone else that can help. And if you're not happy with the case manager that you have, or you feel like they're not providing you the resources that you need, you can always request for a new one.
I do want to highlight Chioma's point. Part of the Community Health Advisory Panel is also having different representatives, specifically HSCSN as well, and other MCOs. So we can definitely put you in contact with the two people that were connected with HSCSN, and hopefully they can provide more of an answer. Cece, thank you. Do we have any other questions? You can come off mute if you can't find the raised hand emoji or any reflections.
Hello. Hi, this is Renee Davis, and I was just saying that I wanted to say that I really appreciate the session today. I always am apologizing for arriving late to Zoom sessions due to having to do some setup things in the household while I'm actively taking caregiving with the 22-year-old in my household. But again, thank you guys. This is a very good conversation, but I'd hope to, I would just hope to add and edit the a quote that says, it's not just about teaching people how to fish, and sometimes it's about how do we revolutionize and upturn upside down the entire fishing industry, because the industry of fishing is not necessarily fair to the fish, and is maybe not be the best use of the time of the fishermen. So we should be always looking at, not just looking at the fishing and fishermen, fishes and fishermen, but how can we change the system so that it works mutually in a beneficial way for both our youth with or without disabilities and our families. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Yes, shaking up the system. Right. We have time for one more question or reflection before we move on. Okay. All right. Well, with that, we're gonna go ahead and take our final poll. This question, we're just trying to get a feel of the reflection of overall for today and what you all heard from this panel. What action are you most likely to take after this event? So we have learn more about youth policy issues, attend a community or council meeting, contact an elected official, join or support an advocacy group, share my lived experience, support youth leadership opportunities, stay engaged in future discussions, or the last one, other. And if you have something else to share, you can feel free to share that in the chat. All right, thank you. Let's get a couple more people. Okay, I'll give you all a couple more seconds to finish that up. While you do so, I just want to highlight again, this is usually our community health advisory panel meeting that happens bi-monthly. And I'm just looking around this Zoom, seeing so many parents and parent leaders that are with us in this call, along with our healthcare professionals, and really rooting into our advocacy and the work that we do and the drive that leads our work, being able to hear from parents and caregivers and your personal experience. So thank you all for also joining into the conversation and dropping some gems into this discussion. All right. So I see that the majority of votes were for learn more about youth policy issues. I know Assisi dropped a recommendation to do like a post meeting and reflection about community resource mapping. So for sure. And also have support youth leadership opportunities. Perfect. We have one on July 20th. Come support our YAB member, Youth Advisory Board member, Whitney Sellers, as she is directing her for her first play in person. So we will definitely love for you to join and stay engaged in future discussions. So we would definitely invite all you to come back to our next chat meeting that will be in September. All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close us out. As we close today's conversation, I want to thank our panelists, our interpreters, our partners, and everyone who joined us today. Our discussion today reminds us that thriving requires coordinated systems, meaningful partnerships, and youth-centered leadership. So please go ahead and stay connected by attending our future health policy camp events. We have also written a blog on youth safety and thriving. And we encourage you to continue sharing our live binder full of resources. And our recordings of these Zoom meetings will also be up on our YouTube post camp. So you guys can always go and check that out or share it out with families. Again, we are collecting families' child find stories. So if you know of anyone that could be really nice to share their story with us, please go ahead and encourage them to fill that out and continue these conversations in your communities and the families and caregivers that you serve. So please note that all these links that we've been sharing are definitely available through the live binder, but we'll also send a recap with everything. Finally, after logging off today, please take a moment to complete today's evaluation. Chioma, if you can drop that in the chat as well, please. You can find that in the agenda, if anything. And your feedback continues to help shape our future community health advisory panel meetings. So I would really encourage you all to take some time and just give us feedback for today's session. And so with that, thank you again very, very much for spending this wonderful Friday afternoon with us. And if you are a caregiver or a family member, we encourage you to attend our Parent Cafe tomorrow. That is from 12 to 2 p.m. at Wellpoint. Emil, do you have the exact address? Because I forgot. But it will be from 12 to 2 if you would like to join us.
Yeah, I'm
And
getting ready to drop it now. My bad.
great. Thank you, Emil. Chioma has dropped the link to the evaluation. So if you get a chance, please fill it out. And thanks for coming, Dr. Peterson.
Thank you, Daniela. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you to the panelists. Appreciate y'all.